So we're back again, and this time I'm going to show you, or actually create a series of topics on UI, UX design. Now for those of you who are new, I know that there's Java and there's many other programs and applications that assist in that. But for those of you who are new, you must start with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So the application lifecycle always requires a UI UX designer, and those are very important whether you're creating an app or a website, because who decides what color to use? Who decides, like if you're creating an app for a soccer team, then you want to use some green for the football field, or if you want to use an app for some kids, you want to use some bright colors. So the UI UX designer has to design the flow of the app. And what better way to learn that than other than the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Now today I'm going to actually show you, we're going to start with the older style, because today, prior to HTML5, people used to use layout or tables for layout. Now we use the semantic, which will be my next video, by the way. So you can look that up, and I'll show you how to use semantic and CSS to create your UI designer. And you should, but you may still run across a situation where the semantic is not fully accommodating what you want. So that's when tables come in. So this is the best way to practice. So what I'm going to do is, I'll show you at the end, but I'm creating a layout. I'm going to visually try to explain this to you, because this is how your production manager is going to explain. So they're telling you, okay, we want you to have, and see if you can draw this design on paper as you listen to me. And if you can, please write in the comment below that whether you were able to or not. So here's what I want you to do, is visualize that you have your web page here, or you have your design here, you have a banner, you have a logo, on the left hand side you have a navigation bar where you're going to put your buttons. Sometimes you may have a menu bar on the top. Then you have some text like welcome or something with a picture on the right hand side. Then some small excerpt or some other aside information that catches the eye of your viewer. Then below that you're going to have some text in 2 columns. So if you were able to visualize this design, that's great. Now I'm going to show you this same design on an HTML page on how to go ahead and click on this. You can use any HTML editor. There's Notepad++, there's other HTML editors. Microsoft has come up with a new one called Web Matrix. It's free, you can download it, it's pretty good, and it's specifically being used for app and mobile app development. So of course, you have to know your screen size and start work. Because we're doing it like a web page, I'm going to use something like 800. So here I'm moving on to recording, and you can see what in front of me is a blank page. And what I'm going to do is start here with the standard HTML5, which is doc type that you always want the first line to be, and you would basically just write HTML, and I think that should be sufficient. That's what tells your browser that this is an HTML page. Then you start with the element HTML. This is the standard structure for every HTML. I would go a few steps down and put the ending tag for HTML. Now the editor I'm using is Adobe Dreamweaver, and it's only because I'm used to that. Most HTML editors, I mean, you can use Notepad too, but I'd rather you use an HTML editor, because you'll see that it's color coded, so that way you know from the elements or tags to the attributes, you'll know the difference. So you notice how I put HTML and it knows that it's the ending of my HTML tag. And then of course, as you know, that there's the head tag, which is going to be on every HTML page, and always indent your head tag. Again, my editor automatically added the ending tag. And then of course, always put a title for your page. So I'm going to put the title, and I'm going to call it we're going to basically create a student corner. So I'm going to call it student portal. So we're going to create a student portal here, and that will be the title of the page. I've kept my page in split view, so you'll be able to see on the right hand side the design as it comes up. Now we also all know that you will start with the body. The body is where whatever you write on the body will automatically show on every page. And here's what it is. So now this is the standard structure of your HTML page. As you can see, this should be the standard structure of every HTML page. So far, all we have is a title with the HTML, head, and body. Now within the body, we are going to introduce a table. Now here's what I want you to understand. That when we look at table that presents a tabular data, like a spreadsheet, we always come up with columns and rows, okay? So we always say, oh, these are my columns and these are my rows. That's okay if you are presenting your data like a spreadsheet. But if you're creating a layout or a table with HTML, first of all, there are no columns. What you have is a table with rows, and then the rows are split into divisions or cells, which creates the column. See that? So basically, if you tell me, okay, Arif, I want to create a table with 3 columns and 3 rows, what I will do is I will create a table with basically 3 rows first, and then within each row, I will split each row to have 3 columns. So technically, you will see the division of each row 3 times per row. So it'll be 9 divisions, and that's how you will get my column. So always remember. So that's the same thing we're going to do. Now, the element or the tag for a table is table tag. The element for row is called the TR, as in short for table row. And then the element for the division or the cell is TD, and that's basically going to come within each row. So here's what we are going to do is we're going to go ahead, and I'm just going to use some width so my table shows up nice and big. But remember, the width would be whatever your tablet or device that you're designing for. So I'm going to use some arbitrary numbers that I feel, you can always modify that. So here's what we're going to do is we're going to start with the table tag, and the table tag has attributes. So in this one, we're going to keep a width for the table, and that width I'm going to keep it as 800. Remember, the best way but now is to keep your width to be something like 100% or 80%, because that way if the device changes, that's fine. But for understanding, I'm going to keep it pixels. The height, I'm going to go ahead and put that as something like 951, an arbitrary number. And I'm going to keep a border here just so that you can see the layout. Once you've created the layout, you've inserted your images, you've inserted your text, you can take the border 0, and what will happen is all the lines will disappear, and it will look like you've organized your content in a very organized and professional manner. So again, I went in and I put the end tag for my table. Now, according to my design, so you can see it's like the top row, and then basically there's going to be a second row here. So first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create those top rows with 2 columns and the bottom row with 2 columns, and I'll show you. And I'll keep a width for that as well. So I'm going to say TR, which is my first row, and then put /TR. That will be the end of the first row. Then again, I'm going to put TR, which would be my second row, and then again I'm going to put /TR, which is the end of the row. Now, the real challenge comes in when you have the second row, and I'll show you in the design. When you have the second column further down, has 2 columns in the second row, but only one one cell in the top row. How do you do that? How do you, it's like in Excel you would say merging or wrapping. So we're going to basically show you that. So any kind of merging or wrapping or splitting of cells should only happen within the TD tag, not within the TR. So here you can see that I have two rows. Let's go ahead and basically put a width. Let's not put any width or height for the TR and TD. And here's what we are going to do is, let's go ahead and refresh the design here. So as soon as we go ahead and refresh the design in the view, you'll notice, see, I have a table here. You can see it's like really small table because I haven't entered any cells in it. So you can barely see a line show up here, and you see how it turned red as I moused over it. But see, it's totally compact, but no problem because we're going to add divisions in here. Now, the first division is the logo. So you can say, okay, I want to keep my logo like 150 or something like that. So, just come up with some arbitrary number. I've previously done a logo, so I'm going to say, okay, TD, and I'm going to keep its width again to be 122. And then I'm also going to keep a height. This should match the width and height of your logo. So if your logo is 100 by 100, you would keep the width and height to be the same, or something like that. Let's say I come up with 95 because I'm not creating a perfect square here. And then I'm going to basically go ahead and type the word logo here. So and then put /TD. Now so I've now created my first TD, and I'm going to highlight this one and copy and create a second line. And in the second line, what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically, because this is my banner, so if I kept it 122 and I've kept my width of the table to be 100, I can keep, this would be something like 600 something. So I'm going to basically keep an arbitrary number of 662 here. The height can still remain the same, or even in this case, because I specified the height with the top one, so actually we don't even need the height. So I'm going to keep it here. Now you'll see that as soon as I refresh the design, look at that. You can see that I have the table show up here. This one shows up at the bottom, but notice there's no cell in here. It's just one empty because there's nothing in the second row. So I'm going to remove the word logo and actually insert here the word banner. So this is where your banner would go. And again, I'm going to create two cells now. And this time I'm going to say TD. And again, I'm not going to have to specify a width because I'm just going to type the word nav as in navigation and put /TD. And then the second one, again, if I want, I can specify the height. This time I'm going to specify in the second one, so you can see how I can use only one column to specify the height. So here's the height, and just to make it look good, let's say we keep the height something like 310 or something like that. Okay, so here's my height specified. So I've closed the TD tag, and then now let me end it. So now again you'll see that when I refresh this design, it will automatically. So you see now I have a logo, banner, nav, and then this is the area where I'm going to basically create the design. Now this is the first part of the layout. So let me move to the right, and you can see the layout is right here. I'm moving a little bit to the left. If I want, I can create this bit here, and now you can see how my design is coming along. Now, the logo and the banner, if I feel, oh, the height of the logo is too much, I can always make it lesser. So instead of 95, I can make it, say, 85. And again, as soon as I refresh the design view, there you go, it made a letter. So you can play with it as you want. Now the challenge comes is in this area, what we want to do is we want to basically, again, create like one line here for the image and the thing, and then the bottom, create a second one for the excerpt, and then 2 cells here. So you notice that all the rows that I put in here, whether it's 1, 2, or 3, these rows are going to span 2 columns. So basically what I have to do is in the very top one, which is where the banner is, I have to specify that it's going to span 2 columns. So here's what I'm going to do is right now you're not going to see anything happen, but I'm just going to, so you saw the cell got highlighted, and I'm going to use something called colspan, as in short, for colspan equals 2. So this way the system knows that there's going to be 2 rows coming down there. Now, further, because this now is going to be divided into 2 rows, I need a 3rd row, and then this one is going to do there. So let me add a 3rd row first. But before I do that, because there's going to be 4 rows here, I'm going to say 1, 2, 3. So this cell here is going to say row span equals 3. So you notice it's better to work in the cell. Now this cell is right here. So the moment I click in here, let me refresh the design, and you see how this gets highlighted. And now I'm going to say TD space row span equals 3. And voila, I've now specified that the row span is 3. Nothing happened because I haven't created those rows. But I let my system know that this cell here represents, is going to span 2 columns, and this cell here is going to span 3 rows. So the first row is already there. I now need to create 2 more rows. Okay, so I'm going to go down here and create a row, TR. And basically, like I said, I never specify cell or width height in TR. So that's basically our row number 1, and then we're going to create a row number 2, I mean, and then we're going to create a row number 3. So again, this TR is created, and then /TR. Now, the bottom one is going to contain 2 columns, and this is the bottom row that you see here. So I'm going to quickly create 2 TDs. I don't even need to specify its width. If I want to, I can. And I'm just going to type as column 1 and /TD. And then this here is going to be again TD and column 2 as /TD. So notice now when I refresh, this is going to show up here and nicely in between there, and there you go. You see this? So this one spanned over 2 columns because it created this, it shortened this row. You can see the difference, and there are these 2 columns there because we haven't done anything in this particular row right yet, but we're going to get there. Now we did the row span equals 3, but now notice that the second one also needs to colspan. So basically what we are going to do is after the first one saying colspan equals 2, we have to go into the second one, this red one here, and make it closer so that it extends to the end. So I'm going to go here after the height of the second one and say space and say colspan, okay, colspan equals 2. And now when I refresh, you'll see how this will extend over these 2 columns as well. So view and refresh design. There you go. See that? Now you see how it became a complete column, and this became a complete column. So I can put my image. Now there was a third column that I needed to put, and that's this row here. So again, what do you think? Will this row also have to be put as colspan equals to? Let's pause for 5 seconds and see. So think of the answer. Maybe you can write down in the comment if you thought of the right answer or not. So if you answered yes, then you are correct, because again, when you add a column, because every column that spans 2 columns, all of them has to have that. So we're going to again introduce a column here for this new row, and we're going to call it TD, and we're going to have this column also span equals 2. Okay, and we're going to just write here something like aside, because this is just going to have some notification. So again, now when I refresh, there you go. See this? Now I can increase the height of this column here. I can lower the height of the column. So maybe I want to just keep a small height. So what I'll do here is go here and say height equals, maybe we'll put it say something like 125, because it's short, and there you go. And then when I refresh this, yeah, see how the height, now your layout is complete. You have the logo, the banner, the nav. Here you can insert an image, an aside, and 2 columns. Notice how this cell spans 3 rows, which is why when I had this cell, I said row span equals 3. These 3 columns, all 3 columns spans over these 3 rows all span over 2 columns. So every time I introduce their cell, I introduced colspan equals 2, because it spanned these 2, column 1 and column 2. So this used to be the method to create layouts so that they were good for SEO, they were good for every browser, until semantic was introduced in HTML5. In our next video, if you subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to ring that bell, in our next video, I'm going to show you how to create a similar layout with the new HTML5 semantic. Okay, so hope this video was helpful. Please write some questions, feedback. We're always on the lookout, and don't forget to subscribe. And see you all later. Ciao.